Alright folks, today we're looking at the Icarius. It's a secondary that fires rockets with a soft tracking capability. While it takes some setting up, this weapon can handle the entire Steel Path, Grineer, Corpus and Infested missions, as well as being able to handle Acolytes. So let me show you what modding setups work and what else you need to know about the weapon. I'm the Kengineer, let's solve a practical problem. I'm going to start by going over the stats for the Icarius. Unlike most recommended weapons, the Icarius has abysmal critical stats. A 6% base critical chance and 1.8 times critical multiplier puts it way down the list. That's worse even than the Gamma Core. The Icarius does make up for this with some solid status chance, but mostly the important bit about the Icarius is its explosion. It has a 7.2 meter base range on the explosion, with 419 base damage per explosion, on a weapon that fires 2 rockets per trigger pull. That's just a little bit higher damage than the aforementioned Gamma Core. Actually, it's a lot higher. To get the most out of the Icarius, we need explosion range, we need strong elements, and we need a significant amount of damage and multi-shot. And what do you know? We've got those in spades these days. So for a generic suits everything build, I'd recommend this. This build capitalizes on primed heated charge to give a huge amount of heat damage with a good chance to trigger the heat proc. We've also got viral damage modded in through pathogen rounds and Ice Storm. What's important about Ice Storm is that it increases the magazine capacity, taking the Icarius from 10 rounds to 14 rounds on top of the cold bonus. Because of the notoriously long reload on the Icarius, this saves a considerable amount of time. Galvanized Diffusion and Lethal Torrent are just staples of a good secondary at this stage, while we have pure damage coming in from Hornet Strike, Galvanized Shot and Secondary Merciless. Now, I can hear someone already furiously typing, and hold up my dude. This is your all-rounder build, focused on being able to handle anything broadly, not to be optimized for specific fights. Hornet Strike is giving you a boost to damage on your initial rocket before any status is applied. Likewise, it's there to allow you to gain momentum for when Secondary Merciless isn't fully stacked. While it's nice to calculate damage based on a triple stack 3 status Galvanized Shot and a 12 stack Secondary Merciless, if you're running those two and no Hornet Strike, your damage is anemic until the stacks start building, especially as you also need to build up Galvanized Diffusion. Hornet Strike more than triples your starting point for damage. Once you've got everything spooled up, Hornet Strike is still giving you over 25% damage buff when you're hitting targets with 3 status effects on them. The bonus from Hornet Strike is the equivalent to over 30% with just 2 status on your target, or over 37% bonus with just 1 status on the target, assuming the rest of this build is fully maxed. But yes, the hypothetical zealot of maximization that I'm speaking to here would be right to point out that other options exist which replace Hornet Strike. This first build has a good minimum damage, but it also has a lower maximum, trading potential power for reliability. If you are confident in your ability to get and maintain the stacks needed on Galvanized Shot and Secondary Merciless, then you can swap it out for a primed Expel mod. These will give you a 55% faction specific bonus to damage, which double dips on any status damage, in this case the heat procs. That will bring them up to 140% more damaging than before. When you face heavier units, that status damage will become increasingly important as a source of damage for you. If you don't have the Prime version, a normal Expel mod only gives a 30% boost, which is a 69% boost for the status damage. That is still superior to Hornet Strike in a maxed out situation, but it leaves you with an even lower minimum damage that makes pauses in combat and kills rather punishing. Now for some people, swapping out Expel mods for each faction can be a bit tedious, but that is what loadout slots are there for after all, both on complete loadouts and just basic weapon loadouts. There is though one more way you can ramp the damage up even further to truly get the most out of the Icarius, and that is to use absolute crit buffs. While the Icarius only has a 6% critical chance, you can raise this with the likes of Arcane Avenger, Cat's Eye and Covenant. Arcane Avenger is the most reliable of these options, albeit with the downside of needing to take damage to activate it. The 45% critical chance buff would bring the Icarius up to a 51% critical chance. At that point, swapping out Hornet Strike or your Expel mod for Prime Target Cracker becomes viable, boosting your critical multiplier up from 1.8 times to 3.78 times. That means the average damage bonus from critical hits is therefore now 142%, up from only 4.8% without the 2 critical buffs. This buff applies to your direct damage and to your status effects, making it overall more powerful than any primed expel mod, and it applies to any faction, regardless of allegiance. This comes in especially useful against the Acolytes. Now I want to talk about the practical considerations for the Icarius, both good and bad. On the good side, it's hard to use this weapon wrong. The huge area of effect and soft homing capabilities means it'll connect shots that many other weapons would simply call a miss. You can even shoot around corners to avoid being in the line of fire yourself, improving your survival. Now as for the bad side, the Icarius demands a lot to get to this power state. This weapon needs all the Forma it can get in order to be fully effective. While it comes with 2 polarities pre-installed, that's still 6 Forma to get everything working. You also need an Exilus weapon adapter and the secondary arcane adapter. Secondary Merciless isn't just nice, it's required. It gives 2 always-on buffs at max rank, that's 30% higher reload speed and 100% higher ammo maximum. The Icarius itself has a long reload time, 3.4 seconds at base, as well as a cripplingly small 20 max ammo. Reloading twice normally would use up all of your ammunition, but with the Ice Storm mod added on, a single reload will leave you with less than half the magazine in reserve. By using Secondary Merciless, this takes you up from 1 full reload available to nearly 3, and the combination of sprinting and Secondary Merciless will almost halve the reload time. There is no getting around it, you need to use that arcane. Even then, I recommend using an extra form of ammunition support in less intense missions, as fewer clustered enemies means a worse ammo efficiency. Carrier's ammo case, Lavos' transmutation probe, and Protea's dispensary are the top options here. While pistol ammo is readily dropped, running out is a disaster on a weapon with 3 different timed buffs. Primed Fulmination on this build is required for similar reasons of ammo efficiency, to hit as many enemies as possible. This, however, carries its own downside of being very effective at knocking you down. To use the Icarius fully, you must have a form of knockdown immunity, whether that be Prime Sure-Footed or a Warframe ability. And lastly, the grind. You cannot buy the Icarius blueprint normally, instead it's dropped from infested demolishers, which can ordinarily be found on on Uranus. It only has a 1 in 80 drop rate, the same as its sister weapon the Exceltra, and loot enhancing abilities like Desecrate do not work either. What this means in practice then is around 1 in 20 people will get the Icarius on their very first round of Disruption, with over half of everyone getting the Icarius within 14 rounds of 4 Demolisher kills. However, 1 in 20 of you will need over 60 rounds, and 1 in 100 will need over 92 rounds. But for those of you willing to take the time, or platinum, to get this pair of homing rocket launchers, you've now got the builds to absolutely ravage your opponents. I do hope you found this video helpful or learned something new. If you have, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe as well to catch more videos as they go live. That's all from me for now though, so as always, fire rockets, resist knockback, and fight well, Tenno.